There was one point where she told me, stop screaming and push instead. And that kind of rubbed me the wrong way. What? Like, I don't know if I'm ready for this. This is so soon, so fast. We just got here. Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be sharing my natural, unmedicated birth story with you all. It is a video that I've wanted to share for a long time. If you are new to my channel, I am a stay-at-home mom of 2. I had my daughter Kylie at the end of 2014 and my son Liam in 2017. And right now I am pregnant with baby number 3 due at the end of October. So this birth story is going to be about my son Liam. He's now 2, he turned 2 in March, but I figured since I am thinking about my birth already with baby number 3, it would be interesting for me to reminisce back on my birth with Liam and kind of give pros and cons to a non-medicated birth and a medicated birth, because I have had both. I had an epidural with Kylie and no epidural with Liam, so I kind of know both ends of the spectrum and what to expect for both, and that way I can kind of try and decide what I really want for my 3rd baby. There wasn't a real big reason why I didn't want an epidural. It was kind of just after I had my daughter, doing a lot of research and watching so many YouTube videos and realizing that there were a lot of pros to having the natural birth. One being quicker recovery. I heard a lot of people after they had the baby, they just felt amazing. And I do remember after the epidural, I was feeling really sore. My back was actually really sore. But of course, that's your first baby also, so that could play into it. I just wanted to share a little bit of my birth story with you all. Kind of start from the beginning, go through the labor, and then towards the end, I will give you some of my tips for a natural birth, and I will kind of go and talk about my pros and cons of epidural and non-epidural. So if you want to hear about my natural birth story and some of my natural birth tips, then please keep watching. So I was 39 weeks pregnant with Liam when my husband and I and my family went to go see the new live action Beauty and the Beast. I was so excited for this movie to come out, as everyone else was. And I remember telling my husband, well, he wasn't my husband at the time, I remember telling Travis that I hope the baby stays put at least until I can see Beauty and the Beast. I just could not wait to see this movie and go pig out on snacks, and that's exactly what I did. So I think we saw it on a Sunday. It came out Friday. We saw it that Sunday, and I remember we just pigged out. I got every snack I could think of. You know, I think I got like chicken tenders, popcorn, candy, soda, everything. Just did it up. And everything was fine. Didn't feel anything happening, nothing beginning, nothing starting, just enjoyed the movie, loved it, and that was it. I went home that night and I went to sleep. Around 2:33-ish in the morning is when I woke up from feeling bad stomach pains. Now, contractions just didn't, that's not the first thing I thought of. I just thought I was having a stomach ache, because honestly, that's what my contractions always start off like. Even with Kylie, just started off like bad stomach pains. So my first thought was, oh, it was the food from the movies, because I ate a ton of crap food. So I instantly just thought I had to use the bathroom. This might get a tad TMI, this part, but I'm assuming if you're watching this, you are interested in birth stories, which are always TMI, and you must be pregnant, so you know what I'm talking about. Anyways, so I woke up and I kind of woke Travis up suddenly, and I was like, my stomach really hurts, and I was like, let me try to go to the bathroom. So I did go to the bathroom, and let me tell you, it was a lot, and it was more than once. And at first, it didn't occur to me that when you do go into labor, sometimes your body clears itself out beforehand. And the same thing happened to me with my daughter. I went to the bathroom a lot when I first started actual labor. So that was happening. And I, at the time, just thought, okay, no wonder my stomach hurts. I'm going to the bathroom a ton. but every time I would go, I would get no relief. And this pain was coming on pretty on top of each other. Like every couple minutes I was having these contractions, which I didn't know they were contractions at the time. So once I realized going to the bathroom wasn't helping the pain, I told Travis, like, I think these are contractions. And then I kind of started to get that nervousness a little bit, like, oh my gosh, this is actually labor and it already hurts. And I remember that shocked me because with Kylie, I had like mild contractions for an entire day before I actually started feeling them close together and really painful. And with her, even, it was before Christmas time, so I went shopping with my mom like all day long, and every like maybe 5-6 minutes had to stop and like bend over for a contraction, but I was like, oh, they're fine, like nothing serious yet. Well, this started like right away, like bad pain. So I was kind of like, oh my gosh, I don't know if I can do this natural birth. I don't know if I'm gonna be able to do my plan because this is very painful, very quick. And I had no idea if I was dilating or not. So if I went on with this pain for hours and hours and hours, I just was gonna give in. And I did go into wanting a natural birth, telling myself, it's not the end of the world if you can't do it. But I knew if you really wanted a natural birth, you kind of had to have the mindset that you're gonna do it. But I still was giving myself some slack to where, you know, it's there if I really needed it, unless it was too late, which I didn't plan on it being too late. Then I wanted to get in the tub because I knew I didn't have to rush off to the hospital. At this point with my second baby, I knew labor takes a while, and I wanted to kind of labor at home as much as I could because first of all, I was afraid of going to the hospital in pain and being turned away, having to go home anyways. Second of all, if I wanted to do a natural birth, I knew I didn't want to be in the hospital for long, only at like a 2 or 3 centimeters. I want to try and get there when I was close to being in active labor. But at the same time, you don't want to get there too late either, obviously. So I got in the bathtub, kind of felt good, but the pain was just coming on top of each other. I mean, like every minute, every 2 minutes, I was like in intense pain, and I was on all fours, and I realized at that moment that was a position that I was going to try and be in the entire time because for some reason that was the position that felt the best to me. And when I researched natural births before this, I found that you do not want to stay flat on your back, but I will get to that tip later on. So I was on all fours, but I realized, I was like, Travis, we need to go. And he said too, when he saw me really in pain, he said, we need to go to the hospital now. So got out of the tub, tried to get out of the tub. Of course, I had this plan of actually going to the hospital feeling cute, maybe my hair done. No, that never ever happens. So unless you're getting induced or something. But I was in literally like this orange t-shirt and red Christmas pajama pants, and it wasn't even, it was March. My hair, of course, messy bun, whatever. You do not care when you're in that much pain at all. So I went downstairs. We were living with my mom at the time, and she was downstairs sleeping on the couch. And I went down to her and I was like, Mom, like this is happening, like we have to go. So thank God my mom was living with us, and she was able to stay with Kylie when we just went right to the hospital. But when I just went down to talk with her, I had to kneel down, and that was something I noticed. I couldn't go 2 minutes without having to literally, if I was standing, just squat down with the pain. There's no way I could stand up in the contractions I was having. So I was like, okay, these are already like really intense and painful. We have to get there. We get in the car, of course, pitch black. At this point, I think it's like almost 4 o'clock, or maybe it's 4 o'clock at this point. And I'm kind of getting anxious in the car because I keep telling Travis, I don't know if I could do this naturally. And he said, you don't have to. Just get the epidural if you want the epidural. And then I said, what if I get there and it hurts this bad and they turn me away? What if I'm not dilated? What if they turn me away and I cannot handle this pain this long? So, to be honest, women that do natural births that have a long labor, like if it's your first, you are superheroes, because I think one of the reasons why I was able to do this naturally was that it was a very fast labor. So I get to the hospital, we go into triage, and Travis has to go speak with the triage nurse because there's no way in heck I can even talk at this point. The second I get into triage room, I'm bent over on one of those long bench chair things and just in so much pain, and Travis yells back at me, how many weeks are you? And I said, I'm 39 exactly. So I was exactly 1 week early. And they put me right in a wheelchair. They asked me those couple questions. We didn't pre-register for Liam, but they asked me a couple questions, and I don't think I filled out anything. I don't know. But anyway, so then this really nice man, nurse assistant, not sure what he was, pushing me up in the elevator, asking me so many questions. He was so sweet, but there was no way I could answer him. He was like, what are you having? I was like, a boy. And like, leave me alone, stop talking to me, please. Because it hurt so bad. So anyways, fast forward, we get up into our room. First thing they want me to do is get out of my clothes into a gown. Did it the best I possibly could, struggled. And then I had to pee. I remember I had to pee. So I went to the bathroom, and my stomach was so rock hard from the contractions so often that I feel like I couldn't control my bladder that well, which that does happen. And I think I peed myself a tad on the floor, and I remember not knowing if that was my water or not, because I've never experienced my water breaking. With Kylie, they had to break it for me. So I went out and I did tell the nurse, I'm not sure if my water broke a little bit or is breaking, or if it's my bladder, but eventually we found out it wasn't my water. But she had me up on the bed to monitor me and hook me up to everything first, and they monitor me. They check my dilation. I'm praying I am not at a 2 or a 3. I'm just praying there's some sort of middle, hoping my best for a 5. I am at a 6. I was shocked because with Kylie, it took so long to get to a 6. And hearing that I was at a 6 right when I got there, I knew I could do this naturally. That was like the kind of the motivation I needed for me to be like, okay, I got this, because I knew at the rate I was going, it was not going to take much longer for me to reach a 10. So that made me feel amazing. Even with the pain, I was like, okay, a 6, perfect, I got this. So I told my nurse that I really wanted to try and stay up and walking and moving throughout my labor to help with the pain, because I did want to do it naturally. And she told me that's perfectly fine, but we initially have to give you your IV and monitor the baby first. And then they'll give me moments where I can get up, walk around, but then they'll have to once in a while keep, putting the heart monitor on me for the baby and everything like that. So I was okay with that. So I got my IV, monitored the baby, everything looked good. Then I remember wanting to get up, so they unstrapped me from everything, and they gave me a birthing ball. They had one available. I honestly didn't know the hospital even had birthing balls, because it's not like a birthing center. They gave me a birthing ball. I have a picture of it. I ended up hovered over it, just laying on it instead of using it what you're supposed to use it as. You're supposed to kind of sit and bounce on it. And I was in so much pain that I was just completely laying on it like that. And just dealing with the pain as much as I could. So then Travis asked me if I wanted to go on a walk down the hallway. So I got up, literally made it to the door, squatted down in that position again, had the epidural. Had the contractions. So at this point, the contractions were so painful that I needed some sort of outlet for every contraction. I can admit, I've always been the type of person that hated hearing people moaning during birth. I know that sounds weird and terrible, but I don't know why it bothered me to hear women just in that low moan for the pain. But let me tell you, having a natural birth, you're gonna do that. And if you try to hold it in like I did with Kylie, you're gonna need that epidural ASAP. So that was another thing I researched to help with the pain, was to kind of let out this sound. It doesn't sound cute, but you don't care to sound cute when you're in labor. So anyways, if you hear Liam, he's with Travis out in the living room, and he's kind of loud, kind of whiny. Anyways, so that was the noise I was making. I was walking maybe a couple steps back to the squatting position, and at this point it kind of got funny and interesting, because they had a student, I don't know if she's a student nurse or a student doctor, come up to me. She was such a sweetheart. Her name was Ying, and I'll never forget that. And I think she was early 20s, I'm not really sure. But she came up to me, introduced herself to me, but I could not talk to the poor girl. in the back of my head, kind of wanted to scream at her. You know when you see the movies and the wives are in labor and they're just screaming at everyone because they're just so in pain and you don't care, you just want everyone to leave you alone? I did want to do that, I'm not going to lie. But on the outside, I'm just too nice and I feel too bad to ever talk to somebody like that, no matter how much pain I'm in. So I was kind of like, hi, yeah. And she was trying to ask me questions, like introduce herself. And then I think she quickly realized that I was definitely in a lot of pain. And every time I would have a contraction, she told Travis where to push on my back, because I always have, I'm not going to say always have because I had 2 babies, but both times I had back labor. And back labor is the worst thing in the world. The pain just radiates downwards into your lower back. And it's awful. And she started pressing on my lower back after every contraction, or during every contraction. So then I was really thankful that she was there. And she kind of was trying to teach Travis how to do it. And honestly, Travis just was not getting it. Every contraction, he tried, and he was like actually pushing in a weird spot that made it hurt worse. So Ying was my lifesaver, and she started just pushing on my back every time I would lean against the wall or squat down, and it was great. So she kind of went back to her room with us, and they wanted to monitor me again. And they did for a little bit, and my mom was going to be in the room with us. So it was just going to be me, Travis, and my mom, and of course the nurses and doctors. And my mom was still with Kylie, trying to bring her to Travis's grandmother's house in Mount Holly, a town over, for her to quickly make it for the birth. And at this point, I should mention, it's a couple hours later. So at this point, it's almost 7 o'clock in the morning. And it was only been a couple hours, and I am quickly approaching 10 centimeters. My mom was in touch with Travis this whole time through texting. Travis is Mr. Calm and did not want to freak my mom out. My mom is much like me, panics, worries, gets anxious. So Travis is calmly texting her like, okay, get here when you can. You know it's going to be kind of soon. So my mom is trying to figure out how to get Kylie to the grandmother's, back to the hospital in time. Well, after I go back to the bed, the doctor comes in and she checks me and she says, okay, you are at a 10. And I'm like, what? Like, I'm already at a 10. And she's like, she was so calm and nonchalant. She goes, you can push whenever you want. Whenever you're ready, just let me know. We can start. And I was like, what? Like, I don't know if I'm ready for this. This is so soon, so fast. But I was happy at the same time. And another thing she said was, well, you're doing this naturally. There's no turning back now, because obviously it was too late at that point to get the epidural. So it's kind of like, it was like exciting, but obviously scary at the same time. Travis told my mom, like, okay, you should get here now, but he still didn't tell her the urgency, like she's waiting to push for you to get here. And the doctor kind of left me be for a minute, and she said, even though you're at a 10, if you're not feeling that pressure right now that like you have to poop, like you have to push, you're okay for a few more minutes. So she kind of left me be. I immediately turned onto my hands and knees on the bed and was kind of rocking back and forth. Of course, without the epidural, you can't do that because you can move. And I remember being completely fine in between contractions, which at a 10 was just so weird, because you just think of 10 as being like you're about to push a baby out, and without an epidural, it's just crazy for that quick minute, if a minute, to just feel perfectly fine. So in between contractions, I was kind of talking to him like, okay, like, you know, we're gonna do this, we're gonna push. And then when that contraction hit, I can't explain it, but when I was doing it for a few hours already and I'm at a 10, I almost felt it like take over my body, and I almost let the contractions take over my body to where I feel like I could do it. Like, it wasn't that pain where I was in that panic pain, I need to get rid of this pain, I need medication. It was just kind of like, okay, like I almost feel like I was in a zone at this point. It was the coolest feeling, honestly. And I did start to feel that crazy pressure in my butt, but I still didn't feel like I needed to push it out. I don't know if I was worried to push or I just didn't want to push yet, but I still didn't feel that like urgency, but I did feel pressure. So at this point, they flipped me back onto my back and get me kind of ready in the pushing position. They wanted me to do a couple of practice pushes first, And as I am doing my first push, my mother runs in the door and she has the most panicked look on her face, like, I can't believe I'm like this close to missing this. And I was like, I'm pushing, and she's like, what? Oh my God. Like, she had no clue we were this close. And she goes on the other side of me, and this is when the unpleasant part started for me. So of course the contractions were, I guess you could say, unpleasant, but like I said, I got so used to them that it started to be almost like okay. But I was so afraid to push without an epidural, because you hear about the ring of fire all the time and the burning feeling you get, and I can just imagine the immense pressure you'd feel when you push the baby out. So pushing, I was terrified, and it was this is when it kind of upset me. A couple things upset me about my birth experience. It still didn't take away from the fact that I had a great birth experience, but if I could change a couple things, this would be a couple of them. My doctor was not one of my favorite doctors in the practice. I said this before, that I had about 5 doctors that I would see off and on throughout the pregnancy, and whatever one was on call that day would be the doctor that would deliver. So I didn't know which doctor I was going to have. But she was always kind of more quiet, nonchalant, and just not one of the very friendly doctors. She was kind of just very quick and, to the point, and sent you on your way. Even when I asked her questions, she was kind of just like very short, and I didn't know how she would be delivering. So I definitely was afraid of pushing, I think, the most. But of course, Travis was right next to me. He is so encouraging through everything, especially when I'm giving birth. He is amazing. He is literally by my side the entire time, rooting me on, telling me, you're doing amazing, keep pushing, you got this, just everything you want in your husband when you're giving birth. Now, I can't say the same for my doctor. I was not a huge fan of her, and there was one point where she told me, stop screaming and push instead. And that kind of rubbed me the wrong way. Pain at this point that I wasn't truly thinking of it too much, but afterwards it's something I definitely kind of thought about, like, wow, she didn't say that very nicely. And obviously I'm in a ton of pain, and I wasn't even screaming. I was moaning more so, making noise, kind of crying, just scared and in pain. And this was my first time without an epidural, and she had a C-section, she mentioned later that day, or right after that, she had a C-section. So I think she was in a rush herself, and I feel like she was getting annoyed that I was in pain and I didn't have the epidural. I feel like she didn't like that I was having natural birth. I know this all sounds crazy. I might be crazy, but doctors are doctors. They're not doulas. They're not midwives. They are just trained to get the baby out, to do surgery, and I just feel like she was annoyed. So at one point after she told me stop screaming and push, I heard just silence from her. Not one encouragement, not, okay, push again, okay, next contraction, nothing. It was just, I feel like she was just sitting there like this, silent. And I was just, okay, I guess I push again. Like, it was like the weirdest thing. That part was a little bit strange to me, that I feel like she wasn't being the doctor I truly needed at that moment, especially with all the pain that I was feeling. But I did not let that ruin my experience. I still feel like, knowing how far I came and how quick everything was, and I was doing this naturally, I was doing it whether I believed it or not. It was honestly an amazing feeling. So my mom was on the side encouraging me. Travis was here. I still had Ying by my legs. She was amazing. And I remember the last couple seconds before he was out, I had no clue what was happening. They asked me if I wanted a mirror. I said absolutely not. I do not want to see anything going on. It helps some people, but to me, I did not want to see what that looked like. And I just remember them saying, okay, his head is out, do one more push. They said, push through the burn. I will never forget that phrase because it terrified me. Push through the burn. And as much as I didn't want to push to feel the burn, I did it. And I remember just doing this loud grunt scream to fully get him just out. I wanted to be over. You always hear about the women screaming, just get it out at the end. And that is the truest statement ever, because when you're at that point, it's just, the pressure is so immense. I can't stop saying pressure. That is the one thing you feel like crazy. You've never felt anything like it your whole life. So I did that one last push, and the relief afterwards, I can't even tell you. Of course, you have that amazing relief after your baby comes out with an epidural as well, but when it's natural and you're feeling everything, you just want that baby out. And when he was out, I couldn't tell you the happiness I felt to see him and to just know I did it, and it was over. The hardest part was over, and they handed him to me, and it was amazing. After that, I felt burning down there. I did. As much as I was so happy that he was out and the contraction pain was over, I did initially feel that burning. And I remember just saying, ow, 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 ow. And she had to immediately examine me and, of course, get the placenta out. That was another thing that was very rough for me. I don't know if this was normal or not, because, like I said, she was in a rush. And I know if the placenta doesn't come out with a push or with them pushing on your stomach, they have to do other things to get it out immediately. It's very important. But this time, there was no pushing on my stomach. I remember with Kylie feeling so much pain when they pushed on my stomach. I did not feel that this time. I remember her just putting her hand up there and starting to pull it out. And when you just push a baby out through there, you kind of have a teeny tear and you have no medication. That is so painful. And I'm sorry if this is grossing you out, because hearing about this to me would give me it would make me have pain myself. But she had her whole hand up there pulling my placenta out, and I was crying in pain at this point. Liam was out, but this part was awful too. I remember saying, just please stop, and she was like, we have to get this out, you have to stay still, it'll be quicker if you stay still. Once the placenta was out, she had a stitch. I had both labors. I had a labial tear, so I had a sideways tear, which is very small and easy to fix, but labial tear with both kids. And I remember feeling that pain as well when she stitched me, because obviously you just feel everything, and I could deal with that after feeling that labor. I could deal with the stitches, but it still hurt really bad. And then, of course, after stitches and everything, all the blood that's still continuing to come out, the lovely parts of after birth. But at the end of the day, I just felt amazing that I had the natural birth that I wanted to have. It really was great. Besides a couple of things with the doctor that I didn't love, I'm so glad I had Travis and my mom with me, because they were amazing coaches, and I could not have done it without them. And of course, Ying was amazing too. I wish there was some way I could contact her and thank her to this day for that, because she's gonna make a great OB or a great doctor, whatever she's going for, because she was awesome. So a couple tips that I have for a natural birth that I went over quickly in this video is, number one, do some research, look up hypnobirth. I began starting hypnobirth, the techniques that you can get on your phone in the classes, but I kind of did it too last minute, and I kind of just did half of it, but I still kind of got the point of it. Hypnobirth is amazing. Learn positions best for giving birth: hands and knees, squatting, laying on your back as little as possible. And I know that sounds impossible when you're in a hospital having a hospital birth, but if I can do it, you could do it too. Letting out sounds, moaning if you have to. With Kylie, and I had the epidural, I remember when I needed the epidural, all I remember is holding everything in with every contraction, and the nurses would actually tell me, you have to breathe, and that tension that I felt was one of the reasons why I just could not handle the pain. I wasn't prepared for it. I didn't know how to let that pain out. So letting out moans and sounds definitely helps. It's a real thing. It's not just because it's a natural thing from pain, it is, but you also do it to help release the pain. I guess just focus on feeling that baby come out. Picture it in your mind. I heard a lot about this before I went into natural labor, kind of just as you're feeling the contractions. Picture every contraction helping the baby come lower and lower down to push him or her out. And it really does help, just picturing everything in your mind and just kind of trying to get in that zone, in that mindset that you can do this and your body was meant to do this. And if you truly want to have an unmedicated birth, you can do it. Just stay focused and just let your body do what it has to do and try to breathe as best as you can through those contractions. I definitely feel like the most important tip though out of all these is the one to keep moving as much as you can. I was really happy that I walked around a lot in the beginning, and I went on the birthing ball, and I just tried to take a walk the whole time because that just gets the baby moving and gets you dilated, and it definitely helps with the pain. Laying on your back would be the worst thing to try and have a natural birth, honestly, in my opinion, because you feel the pressure more, you're not moving around, you have to just move with it. Next tip, have somebody with you, doula, midwife, coach, husband, whoever's in the room with you, trying to help ease the pain with every contraction, whether that's pushing on your back or relieving pressure somewhere or letting them squeeze your hand, anything for each contraction that you're having. Don't be afraid to poop on the table, because I always was, and I feel like it totally affected my pushing, and even the doctor said that. And people said when you're having a natural birth, you won't even care or think about that. Well, I still did, and I just didn't want to do it with a room full of people. But you know what? Sometimes that means you're pushing correctly, and everyone does it. Not everyone, but most people do it. And I'm pretty sure I did twice, so what are you gonna do? I think that is it for my tips on a natural birth, an unmedicated birth, and I hope you enjoyed hearing my birth story. I kind of rushed through it a little bit. I didn't want this to be like the longest video ever because it is kind of a long process. A lot happened, but I kind of think I got through every major thing that I had to. So I hope you enjoyed this, and I hope you guys subscribe if you haven't already to see more of my pregnancy journey with baby number 3, and to just follow along with our family and our vlogs, and like this video, and I will see you guys in my next video. Bye.